Good morning, everybody. Let's put a hat on. We're gonna put a hat on. Let's put a hat on. All right. We are live. Got our morning coffee. I didn't go live this weekend because I didn't feel like it, and I was doing stuff. Let's get the phone going on so I can see comments a little bit better. I know I should have done that first. If you guys noticed, I put up a couple of vlogs. Better. If you don't mind, hit them up, check them out, watch them, enjoy them. Oh, big rig CO, I know. I got today and tomorrow to go south. I'm waiting for a couple of bids to come through. So that's kind of what's going on here. Let's see, we got Mr. Charles in the house. We got TJ Jones, what's up? We've got Patrick. I don't want to butcher your last name. Good morning. Jeremy Rice, good morning. Big Tex, haven't seen you in a minute. Hope you're doing better. I know the last time I talked to you, things were going on with the truck and all that stuff. Shannon, good morning. Matt K, what's up? TK, hey now, what's up? Mr. Bleed Orange. So, Big Rig CO is right. Wednesday and Thursday are going to be kind of bad around here, so we're going to we'll find something out of here. We'll figure it out. I might actually go north, maybe. I don't know. Desert Okie Pam, what's up? What are you doing home, big dog? I've been home for a minute. Dealt with some bad weather Thursday, and I just decided to go home. And we had a couple of social engagements that we did this weekend. And yeah, so Red Pepper, good morning. Hope you're doing well. I'm trying to get a load north. They wanted to send me to Georgia. Well, Shannon, I don't know if you've seen all the winter warnings. Once you get north of Iowa, it's kind of a mess up there. So I don't know if I would do that. I think Georgia might be your best bet. Stuart, what's up? Still in the shop? That sucks. Any time estimate when you're going to be rolling again? Salt Lake Cruising, that's a new one. Morning. Oh, I think I know who that is. Is that Big Mike? TK, ease up on PA New York. Ease on up to PA New York. There was a load going up to Pennsylvania. It was going to Bedford. It wasn't a grocery load, and it was light, and I was debating it, but then the times didn't work. It was what it was is there was no appointment on the delivery, which I tend to avoid those is because now it depends on the load. So some brokers, you book a load and you're like, okay, delivery is at anywhere from between 8 and noon, depending on depending on when you're going to be loaded and what time you think you'll be there. And so you're at the shipper and you're like, okay, yeah, set it for 11 a.m., right? And then next thing you know, they've set it for 6 a.m. And you're like, what was the point of asking me if you're just going to do what you want anyways? That's a pet peeve of mine. Or the opposite where, okay, well, yeah, I can be there Monday between 6 and 8, 6 and 9, even 6 to 11. And then all of a sudden now you got a Wednesday at 8 a.m. appointment. And so now what would have been a 2-day turnaround is now a 4-day turnaround. And so now the load's not that great because of the daily rate. So I really tend to avoid, and that's a tip for you new spot market people, is if the appointment has not been set for the delivery, proceed with caution. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying proceed with caution. Because if it's a Walmart or a grocery warehouse, you can't just like show up and hope that they can get you unloaded. It's not going to happen that way. And you can't show up 24 hours early usually. Usually. There are always exceptions to the rules. But yes, TK, I was looking at a logo in the PA. 3/7/22. Well, that's not too bad. That's another, what, 2.5 weeks? So, okay, I just got one. Cambridge, Ohio to Lithia Springs, Georgia. Pretty okay money. I'll take it. Thanks for the weather warning. Yeah, Shannon, I highly suggest. Let's look at my YouTube history here. If you guys don't want to watch the Weather Nation, there's a channel. Ryan Hall, you all. Feels weird saying that. That guy's got a nice 15-minute overview of what's going to happen for the next 2 or 3 days. He has a ton of maps that he throws at you, and he's not a. I've noticed that some weather, especially local weather, likes to be fear mongering because bad weather brings ratings, just like war, just like anything else. And so Ryan Hall, just search Ryan Hall weather, and you'll find that. I highly suggest that. Watch that every morning, and you'll kind of get an idea of what's going on across the entire nation. Thomas Wilson's asking a question. Mr. Wilson, how are you doing, man? How are you doing? Hello again, Tolga. Palm Olive. So, Nomadic Brit, morning. Drizzly, Waxahachie, Texas. Waxahachie. I'm sorry, Pale Rider. Waxahachie. I was thinking about heading that direction, but that's where some of the more of the ice events coming. So I got to get out. It's kind of what Big Rig CO was talking about. He called me yesterday, and I was in the middle of dinner with some friends. I haven't called you back, Big Rig, so we'll call you back later today. Probably after this live feed. I watch Ryan Hall all the time. Good deal. Good deal. But I'll check that out. Thank you, Snorelord. Look, that's my morning routine. Whether I'm in the truck or I'm at home, I will go to Weather Nation. I go in the living room, watch the Weather Nation. And if I'm in a hurry for some information, then I'll go to YouTube. There's a lot of weather YouTube things popping up. And then My Radar has a YouTube channel as well that will give you a summary every morning. They post their stuff at about 3 or 4 in the morning. So it's a great first thing in the morning kind of a deal. That's kind of my routine. Morning coffee with the weather so I can kind of see. And it's something that when we moved to Springfield, 30 some odd years ago, we got cable for the first time because when we moved from Arizona into Missouri, we realized the cost of living was a lot lower. And so we could afford some luxuries like cable TV and regular milk versus powdered milk. And the Weather Channel had just started. They weren't like CNN back then. They were just like, here's the weather, repeat, rinse, repeat. And my dad loved it because he was a meteorologist for the Marines. So he was all about it. And he was excited because Missouri has way more weather than Arizona. Arizona's like, it's going to be clear, warm, not a cloud in the sky, unless you live in Flagstaff or whatever, right? So, but so every day before school, because I rode my bike to school, I didn't have a fancy car to go driving in. I had to pay attention to the weather. If I knew it was going to rain, then I carpool with one of our neighbors who ended up becoming one of my best friends. Let's see. Just running my short game and getting rich. That is absolutely true, man. Short game is where the money is at, but not Missouri. Don't do that in Missouri. No, no, no. Hey, Jay Jones, what's up? Ryan Hall, y'all is the name of the channel. Thank you, Donnie. I appreciate that. That's it. That's it. So everybody pay attention to that. If I was fancier, I'd put a link in and blah, 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 but I'm not doing that. One of my moderators can do that. Salt Life, I'm heading down that way to start my vacation, trying to beat the storm. I have to pick up family in Branson. We need to get south of Little Rock. So that is Big Mike, right? Is that who I'm looking at there? Thank you. Thank you, Britt. Mr. Britt, you put it up there. So TK, that's the thing with running spot. I'm not delivering at 2 a.m. I don't function between 10 and 5 a.m. solar powered. TK, do you know the last time I had to deliver at 2 a.m. in the spot market? Never. It's easy to avoid those loads. Now, I will say this. I do these water loads that deliver at 3:30, 4 a.m. At stores, but you're allowed to spend the night at the store, and hell, you get up after your nap and go shopping, get some groceries for the truck, and they're usually like 150-mile runs. All right, cool. All right, Big Mike, what's up, man? Hope you're still doing well. Thor, morning from wonderful Walmart. Thor and Thunder, I swear. Look at Thomas Wilson cracking that whip. I swear. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much. Ryan Hall also has a vape channel too. Yeah, well, that's nothing I'm interested in. I'd see a big paying load. I'd be fine. I'll do it, then regret it. Well, TK, that's it, right? In order to make money, sometimes you got to do the stuff that other people don't want to do, especially like there's a few customers that I will do that other people won't. That's how you make money, right? At Landstar, if you wanted to do hazmat when everybody else wouldn't, that was how you made money. Now, with that being said, when I see a 2 a.m. delivery, the money's got to be right. But number two, which, I think about it, there's probably been a couple of times where I delivered like that, but only because the money was like tremendously good. And it was a situation where I knew I could spend the night there. I could stage there, and it put me in a position, for a great load afterwards. But the problem that I have with 2 and 3 a.m. deliveries is that's normally grocery warehouses. Well, now you're dealing with lumber checks. And so when you have to call a brokerage, you make sure that brokerage has a 24-hour line, okay? Have a backup plan just in case you can't get a hold of anybody to be able to write your own comm checks. And then 3, I think that's the 2 main points. So can I get a hold of someone to do comm checks? That's the important part. Most of the major brokerages have an outsource 24-hour line that handles that, but that usually takes 15 to 30 minutes depending on the brokerage. So a lot of times if it's 2 a.m. delivery, I'm like, okay, where's it going? Okay, it's a Dollar General. Let's say Dollar General. Okay, that's Capstone usually. So is the lumper prepaid? And they go, yes, it's prepaid. Then you're good to go. So there's a few customers that would do that. So when you break your own rules, you do it right. And by breaking rules, the little limitations that you set on forth, is this a heavy load or is this going to a grocery warehouse? I'll break those rules. And for the first, I don't know, 2 years, every time I broke my rule, I would regret it. Like, going down to Florida, see a big paying load to Florida. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then like now I'm in Florida going, what the hell? And my wife made that point the other day. We were hanging out with Pam and Dave, and she's like, yeah, he always takes a load to Florida, and then he calls me griping about it like after he's there. And it's like, yeah, that's true. So yeah, that happens, right? But you can do that at the Big Orange as well, and at the Big Blue Star. So, but it's that's part of making money. It's part of being in business. And sometimes you got to drive into the bad weather and just be smart about it. Sometimes you got to do overnight deliveries, be smart about it. I've never put myself in a situation to where, and you see these guys, I'll be inside the truck stop at like 9 or 10 p.m. or I'll go in to use the bathroom at like 1 a.m. and you see this guy come in there and he's got like 5-hour, little shots of of energies and 5-hour energies, and he's got 2 monsters and he's got a bag of chips. I'm like, you're getting ready to do it overnight. And I get it. Some of these companies put that kind of pressure on you, but that's the beauty of doing what I do is I don't have to put that kind of pressure. When I can, or when I have to, I can, but for the most part, it's all about balance, right? So there's no need to push myself. Now, with that being said, once I changed what I ate and my eating, way of eating, that made some overnight stuff possible. I think one of the perfect examples was I was at a shipper in Dallas, Grand Prairie, Texas, and they were taking a little bit too long, and I delivered in Bentonville, Arkansas, 8 a.m. And the only way I was going to make it is if I was able to pull a 10-hour break or an 8-hour break, I'm sorry, at the shipper. So I went into the shipper. I said, am I allowed to, overnight here? And they're like, yeah, just pull out of the dock and go on the driveway or whatever. So I did that and started rolling at about 1:30, 1 a.m. And that was back when I was really into my intermittent fasting. And that was better than any 5-hour energy. That was better than any monster drink. That was better than any coffee. I had no issues. And then I was able to talk to another friend of mine that was pulling overnight on the phone. So that helped a lot too. And so eating healthy is definitely a plus if you're doing a lot of overnights. Now, in the reefer world, you're probably doing a lot of those situations and you're making big bucks. So you gotta figure it out. Like Ponzi Film 3. Yeah, I remember those days. And those were some great periscopes, when you go into the Petro in the middle of the night and was eating the light paid for by Landstar. That was probably one of the best ones. But it's I had a really good story from Landstar. There's a guy, I wish I remember the name of his YouTube channel. He was a heavy haul guy over at Landstar, and he called me up one day watching my videos. I had a lot of cool people reach out to me because my early Landstar vlogs, I was definitely struggling, right? And I couldn't figure out why. I didn't have a really good mentor when it came to Landstar. And, and so going from a dispatch company driver to the Landstar model, I didn't realize the depth of self-dispatch. I didn't realize the depth of negotiating loads. I didn't realize the depth of the good old boy system that occurs at Landstar. In other words, the best loads don't even hit the load board. and I didn't realize the extent of how much spot market freight was on the DAP or was on the Landstar load board that the agents didn't even really have. So your best loads at Landstar are direct freight, never hit the board if rarely. And you kind of had to book ahead, which I wasn't great at doing because I wasn't great at self-dispatching. So my vlogs would show my struggle. And I really wish I wouldn't have deleted them because I would like to go back in time and go, man, holy crap, because now, with that being said, I started to do very well. I started to do okay, I guess, versus very well. And caught up some bills. I paid my pickup truck off early. I did all right. But then we hit a little mini recession. The rates tanked and winter hit and it was a wrap. So it was time for me to move on. Now, in that struggle, I had Big Tex. He reached out to me. He was the first one to reach out to me. And his strategy worked. And then this heavy haul guy, God, I wish I can remember his name. He came in and he goes, look, I don't know much about the dry van world, but he was trying to go towards my perception, to my mindset, which is kind of what I try to do. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to run your business. That's not my job. But if I can give you the right mindset on finding what works for you, then that works, right? So that's what I would rather do. Because if I tell you that you got to do things a certain way and this is the only way, or a certain thing, like I'm the be all end all, well, that's pretty arrogant. And there was a time where I stopped doing live feeds because I felt like I sounded arrogant. And some days I still do. And a person always sounds arrogant if you're relaying a message that people don't want to hear. So there's that too. Especially if you perceive that person as being higher than you, like better off than you. Jealousy and envy kicks in, and then they're like, well, you just don't understand my problem, my situation. And you're just like, no. I've been in your situation. I've had your problems. I'm just the next step from that. So this is what I've learned. And that's kind of the approach I've had. But anyways, he called me up and said, let me tell you a story. He told me a story about how he worked for this mafia, not illegally, but this mafia like ran a trucking or like a construction business. And one day he had to go with them to bid on a job. And after the bid was done, they're in the limo, I guess. He's like, it's like, why are we doing this? This is a crap hole. This is a horrible job. He's like, in order to make money, you got to do the things that nobody else wants to do. And so I applied that logic. He goes, now do the hazmats, do the grocery warehouses, do that kind of stuff that nobody else wants to do. And that's when I changed my strategy to hazmat totes, empty totes, because fuel was getting up there. You still had to be placarded, but it was light, fairly easy deliveries. There was 2 straps that went on the back, and that's it. That there was no. You don't have to worry about the load shifting. You don't have to worry about spillage. Unless the totes weren't completely empty, which that was hardly ever a situation. And fireworks were multiple stops. People don't like multiple stops, and so that's where the money was at. And that rescued me. And then from that point, that's when I met Jeffrey Like, thanks to Big Tex Trucking, and the rest is history. So let's see. T-Bone, good morning. Where's Thor going? Thor going somewhere? Paperwork is ready. Y'all have fun. There you go. So my way is the best way, but that's only for me, nobody else. Right. And but a lot of people will say that is truth. You know, we live in a world, and maybe this has always been human nature, but because, like, I've heard this about YouTube channels, like these kind of YouTube channels don't do very well. You know, a certain type of YouTube channel doesn't do very well. But the reality, this person that says that, it's only because that person doesn't like that type of YouTube channel. Doesn't mean it doesn't do well. Just because you don't like something or you don't understand something, it doesn't mean that there's no validity to it. And that's a very egomaniac, narcissist statement. So you want to keep an open mind. And so when someone goes, well, you know, the only way to do dry van is blah 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 blah. No. Be aware of those words. The only way to do it is this. The only way to do it is that. You know, be aware of those words, because there usually means that something, like if I sit there and say, like, the short game is a great way to make money, to maximize profits, but do I say it's the only way? No, because I know people that are very successful doing the long game. When I was at Landstar, the long game was better than the short game. It depends on where you live. You may not have a choice if you live in Miami to do the short game. You may not have an opportunity to do the short game if you live in Denver. But if you live in Denver, take a load to Ohio, then you can run the short game and then go home. So that short game doesn't mean you're going to see a lot of home time, but it could be more profitable. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't like talking to brokers or doesn't like booking 1 or 2 loads ahead, you know, then maybe the long game is better for you. It all depends, and you build your business around that foundation. You know, if I lived in a place like Denver or Miami or North Dakota, my foundation would be a lot different. My perception would be a lot different. It would be like, okay, so what you have to do is leave North Dakota, go to Kansas City, and then from Kansas City bounce around until it's time to go back home, you know, that kind of thing. And that works for the person that works in North Dakota. So what works for me may not work for you. You may not like the short game. You may like only driving, right? You may only like, you know, driving 1,000 miles at a time, you know, on every run. So you're not pumping docks all the time. There are times when I've bumped a dock like 4 times in one day. There were times at Schneider that I dropped a trailer like 4 times in one day. You know, and that's a lot of work for some people. And, you know, some people may not like to do the multiple stops. And some people might say doing multiple stops is the only way to make money. So, I mean, you got to have an open mind. You got to have the right mind. So it's about mindset versus, you know, versus telling you what to do and what your costs will be and what you should, you know, like, have the mindset to calculate your costs, have the mindset to keep your costs down, have your mindset to evaluate different markets. So if you have to jump a market to a different market, you can. And that's the important part. You know, that was the thing at Schneider. You had a lot of guys that just ran one area. And then when it came time, when their normal freight dried up, next thing you know, they're freaking out because they didn't adapt to the rest of the load board. They didn't adapt the mindset that this is how you look at any area, regardless if you're in Arizona, in Texas, in New York, in Missouri, in Illinois. You have to look at the load board a certain way, or else you weren't going to make money at Schneider. So I learned that the short game is not for me. I like 300 to 500 mile runs better. And that's the thing. It's coming out of Michigan. I could definitely see that. And some people will call 300 to 500 mile runs short haul, and that's what I call regional. Usually anything over 550 miles, depending on where you live, it can be a struggle to get done in one day. So if it picks up, I saw loads this morning picking up at noon today, but delivers at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning at a Walmart DC, and it's 580 miles. So in my situation, I can't do that load because if I have to deadhead to Joplin, if I had to deadhead to Joplin, now I've already started my clock. So the only way that load might even work is if I don't start my clock till after I leave. So you have to be aware of those things. And those are the struggles that I had when I first started self-dispatch. Schneider, it was a little bit easier to get over that because a lot of loads were drop and hook. So if I did the 300-mile runs, there were usually wide open windows, and I can kind of book accordingly. So if I booked a load that delivered anytime Tuesday morning, 24/7, it was a drop, then I would book my next load. And then so I knew when I could start my 14-hour clock. And I do that a lot with the loads that I run nowadays. You know, I'll pick some first come, first serve as long as I know the receiver, and I will book accordingly and I will start my day accordingly. So I'm not like getting up at 6 a.m. and then next thing you know, the only loads in the area are all picking up at 3 or 4 o'clock that need to go 400 miles. That won't work. Now with the new ELD rules, you know, you can kind of make that work with a 3-hour break, but at the same time, now you're in a situation where you're looking at an 18-hour clock, and you're like, you know, for a 200-mile run, it's not worth it. For a 500-mile run, it might be worth it if it's taking you a different area. There's so many different strategies, and so sometimes you got to just focus on what's in front of you and just simplify the system. That's the thing. Simplify the system that you got going on, and that's something else. I'm kind of not all there, so I have to simplify things just for me to understand them. Tried it last week. We had a lot of issues, but it could have just been a bad week. Yeah, I mean, look, there's always that week where short haul just bites you in the butt. There's always that day during the whole week. Like for me, it's Thursdays. Thursdays, the short game just disappears, especially in the Kansas City market, just gone. You know, so now the only loads are picking up Friday morning, or they deliver Thursday, but they pick up Thursday, deliver Sunday if they're going long, or they deliver like Friday evening in a bad area where you don't think you're going to get anything and it's too far from the house. So you really have to strategize on how it works. Well, Steve, I ran 193 miles to Michigan for $1,000 and going back to Indy with broker load for 900. I'd run it all day long, no lag time. Well, there you go. And there's, you know, Thomas Wilson's got a bit of hustle to him. Sometimes the short game like that, you got some dropping hooks too, Mr. Wilson. So I know that helps too. And depending on a lot of loads and areas, some areas have more flexibility than others. I can't tell you how many times when I was running the really short game in Ohio and Illinois, where the broker at the big brokerage that I was working with, that was basically my second eyes to his board, was able to tell me, well, you know, the appointment's at 8 a.m., but as long as you get there by 10, you're going to be okay. You know, he would know things like that because he knew his customer base. So it's important to work with the brokers that know their customer base. Now that's the short game. Yep. I've done okay in the short game this week, 300-mile tops on the runs. Yeah, and it gives you more opportunity for, you know, less pressure, more parking opportunity. You know, but every now and then I'll book a load that's like, it was probably a little bit tighter than it needed to be, but, you know, we got it done. So this Waxahachie load paid $417 from Schneider Yard customer, which is 26 miles. There you go, Britt. That's how it's done. there's a lot of those kind of loads for us in the dry van world up in Kansas City. Um, like literally going from Kansas to Missouri. Now, the Kansas to Kansas, there'll be loads from Kansas City, Kansas to Lenexa or to Olathe. I can't do those because you need Kansas intrastate. But so, those are kind of out. And then there's a lot of those in Oklahoma, which we don't have Oklahoma intrastate um, that we could do, so I can't do them. There's a lot of them in Oklahoma that pay fairly decent that are like maybe, 50 to 100 miles that are paying, $450, $500 a pop. And a lot of people don't like that. They just want to drive and get their $1,000 a day that way, which is fine. I mean, I like that too. But whether I'm running short or long, I try to average about $1,000 a day. But that's not my break even. My break even is way, way lower than that. So, and that's the trick. So if I have a missed day, I'm okay. If I have a day where I'm home an extra day for the week, then it doesn't hurt. But yeah. I had a friend of mine that recently did a load for, I think it was $1,400 for 49 miles. But that's the reefer world. You can't do that in the dry van unless there's something. I saw a load today on the DAP board that was $2,600 for 300 miles. I'm like, there's something to that, right? So I click on the load, and sure enough, it's a round trip. I'm like, well, it needs to be listed as a round trip, not just 300 miles. So at the end of the day, it was about 600 miles, picking up at a shipper that I hate. And so now that still, well, $2,600, it's actually still not too bad for that. But so, and other times, if you see a really good rate, check the weather this time of year. There was a load coming out of where I delivered on my last vlog that was paying extraordinarily well, and that was when Kansas City was going to get bit pretty hard. And sure enough, I-70 had a pile up a little bit there, and everybody was shut down. And I had a friend of mine call me from Kansas City and said, "Dude, they'll come up here, man. It's horrible." So yeah. Steve, you would have a hard time keeping up with me, sir. I know I would, Thomas Wilson. I know I would. I need $1,000 for 25 miles a couple weeks ago. You need it or made? Oh, did? Okay, good deal. There you go. So it's there's 1,000 ways to do this, right? And comparing numbers is like comparing, genital sizes. It's kind of pointless. You see someone doing what you want to do, ask them how they're doing it. And if you want to master the short game, talk to someone that's mastering the short game. If you want to master the long game, talk to someone that's doing that. Long game is fairly simple. Just stay out of dead areas. And consistency is key. That's the thing about long game. Long game will bring you a little bit more consistency than the short game. So, but anyways, I think that's all I got. We're going to keep this a little bit shorter unless you guys got anything going on. We can do the invite, but that might turn into another hour and a half. And I really do want to start looking for some freight. Monday mornings always kind of, I don't know why I look back. I've got a clock in front of me. The Monday mornings always kind of let the low boards kind of settle a little bit. And usually 9 to 10 o'clock is the best time to book on a Monday morning. Because between 8 and 9, between 7 and 9, they're looking for the desperate people that have been sitting all weekend that are desperate for a load that didn't book ahead on Friday. And then And then you might get lucky and find a load that someone dropped off over the weekend that was supposed to be picked up in the morning, and you can usually get a good rate out of that. But most of the time, the leverage is down a little bit because they know that you're desperate, or a situation like me where I'm trying to get out of the house. So you lose a little bit of leverage there. I'm just guessing, but these numbers not usual or often opportunities, right? Yes, Toga, that is absolutely correct. That's the thing. You have people that go, well, I made $1,000 on 10 miles. Okay, but that's not the norm. Okay. And so, but if you're a person that wants to get in the spot market or wants to become an owner operator, that's all you hear. You're like, I know a guy that did $1,000 for 10 miles. Man, if I could do that every day, I would be rich. Or man, because that's what I did before I went to Landstar. I had someone giving me Landstar numbers. I was like, man. And of course, the first load I booked was $700 for 100 miles. And at the time, I still had a company mindset. So $700, that's almost as much as I'm making a week in one load. And that settlement was like a negative $200. So because of all the expenses and everything tied to that, so it was a harsh reality right there. Like, oh, hey, you're an owner operator now. Boom. So yes, you have to be aware of those opportunities, but they are not normal opportunities. Short gain came down to the numbers for me. We have discussed it before. Wear and tear and fuel. I'm much more profitable on short, and that's the key. And having a strong freight base. That's the other Thomas Wilson. What you're doing would be a lot harder to pull off in other areas of the country. So that's that. If you were in the Southeast doing nothing but the Southeast, your numbers would be a little bit lower. However, you would still have a higher profit margin, as high as profit margin as you would, in the Midwest, just a little bit more consistent. To be fair, it was 50 miles total and also a Saturday load they were desperate to move. And again, that's where you make the money in the spot market is leverage. If you have leverage, you will make money. If you don't have leverage, just be smart, because that's the name of the game. If you've got leverage, if you're the only truck in the area, or if you're the only truck available on a Saturday, or if you're willing to do an overnight when no one else will, that's your leverage. If there's 100 trucks looking at a load board that says 10 loads, you have no leverage. It doesn't matter how good of a negotiator you are, you will struggle a little bit. And it's through every struggle that becomes an opportunity to learn. So, shorties are where it's at for me too in the Northwest game. Usually your Pacific Northwest can be a good short haul area. Your Northeast, if you really know the area, can be a good short haul area. And then the Midwest and the Southeast. The trick is knowing where to go, where not to go, what's a waste of your time. It's easier to get out of Savannah, Georgia than say BFE, Alabama. And that was one of the things I had to make sure I didn't do to my driver that was running the Southeast a couple weeks ago. So knowing your areas it's easier for me to run the short game between Missouri and Ohio than it is the Southeast, because I don't know the Southeast as well as I know the area that I generally run. And that's usually the case of you guys at Schneider, is you take your strategy and put it somewhere else. There's going to be a little bit of learning curve. Where do I have to chase trailers? Which customers am I going to have to live unload that take forever? Which customers are going to need lumber checks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing okay with about $500 profit per load right now, being dispatched, about to get released to load boards and book my own loads. The percentage goes up to 70%. Excellent, Shannon. Good deal. Shannon, that will be a game-changing moment. Shannon, are you switching companies, or are you going to the other? Do they have another board? Shannon, once Snyder put us on contract, taking your acres on choice board, everything changed. And that's the thing. I mean, Midwest shorties is my thing. Okay. You know, now where the Midwest becomes a challenge is when you have huge weather events that might shut you down. So, you know, it's the best thing is to have leverage and adaptability to be able to adapt and overcome. That's kind of that's what you need, you know. Um, and sometimes, as Thomas and Big Rig CEO pointed out, sometimes just getting to work. You know, I've sometimes it's a struggle to get out of the house. You're comfortable, you're in no hurry, and you know, and nothing on the low board looks good. So like, I might wait till tomorrow, and then bad weather comes in, and next thing you know, you're at home for a week. So, um, but sometimes, you know, when I was at Schneider, especially, I didn't like anything on the low board, or the trailer assignment was going to be dumb. So I would actually do a load for like not even a buck a mile to go pick up a trailer. You know, I would pick up a loaded trailer at the Lowell, Arkansas drop lot. So I would at least have a trailer and I could start running after that point. So I would run down for, you know, looking back, you know, $150 to go down there and pick up a load and deliver it somewhere wasn't really a bad idea. It's not too bad. I enjoy watching and reading about what Trucking World is up to these days. It's been a long time out of trucking. Red Pepper, I hope you like the vlogs that I put up. If you guys don't know, I put up a couple of vlogs. One of my GoPros is taking a dump. The audio is no good on it anymore. So it's time for me to upgrade my GoPro, I think. The other one, it does okay, but it tends to be finicky. Sometimes I push the button, it's recording it, and sometimes I push it and it's not recording. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So um, I so a new GoPro is in my future if I'm going to do more GoPro vlogs. So because you know a lot of people are like, well, it's great that you're home and everything, but I'm not at that level where I can be home all the time. I'm just not. You know, the truck's going to ask for some money this year, like it did last year, and it already has. And you know, we got some preventive maintenance that we got to take care of, and hopefully there'll be parts for. And you know, once spring comes along, if I'm not dispatching a whole lot of people, then you know I'll really have to kind of lay down some grind and get it going. So graduated to the next level. Congratulations. There you go. Same carrier that make you earn the responsibility of booking yourself a working spot. Excellent. That's a good method. That's a good method. So as Shannon's badge shows that she is a member, and we have 3 different levels. If you're part of the Metal Army, you get my phone number where we can chat. We can help strategize what you might want to do. And, you know, anybody can email me. The email's in the description, and we can have a conversation if needed. I watched a couple of people over the weekend that were struggling with a few things, and I told them if they wanted to reach out to me, they can. Not that I'm a be all end all, but I know what they were struggling with. And, you know, just like most YouTube, you know, you're on here pouring out your heart and you have all your thoughts out loud. And there was something that, you know, that made me go, you know what, I've been in this situation. I know what he's going through. Here's some information I wish I knew at that moment in time. So that's kind of how I work it. You know, Shannon, you're going to have a much better time learning self-dispatch than I did because I had no mentors when I was at Landstar. I had one guy that kind of gave me some ropes to look at. But he was just a hustler, and I was looking more of the short game. And then Big Tex told me the long game, which I did, you know, for consistency when the low board really took a crap there at Landstar. But again, he reached out to me because of YouTube. So YouTube is a great networking thing. You're back. What'd you say? I said you're awesome, Thomas. I said I was trying to upgrade my GoPro because one of my GoPros took a dump. Now my GoPro vlogs don't do very well number wise because I use copyrighted music. I always get claims, not strikes, but claims. And so I don't get monetized on those, but usually the people that own the music do. So they could definitely help. Good morning, everybody. Drive safe out there. Crazy stuff going on. So I've been reading and watching. Russell Brand has got a really good channel when it comes to what's going on with a lot of the stuff in Canada and the stuff in Russia, Ukraine. What I'm learning is corporate takeover is real. Corporations want you to be sick. Corporations want you to have illness. They want you to have war. They want you to be. They want you to fall victim to your emotions and fear. So that's all I'll say about that. The Mac Brit loves Russell, and it's not like right or left. He's just kind of like he's just reporting what he sees, you know. Yeah, and also to be really stupid. They want you ignorant. Yep, corporation wants you to be ignorant. Anyways, guys, it's time for me to get to work. I got to check on a few things on the LDs and I gotta see what the load boards are looking at. My normal loads usually pop up about 9 or 10 also, so kind of waiting on that. But we might go beyond our normal realm. I did have a bid on a load. I've had a couple of bids on a load that I've lost. And it's very frustrating when people keep underbidding you and I'm not bidding that high. So it's like, how desperate are you to move? So the more desperate you are, the more leverage you lose. The more leverage you lose, the more likely you are to do things that you don't want to do. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, I'm out of here. We're gonna leave you with this.